So everybody who's watching the webinar today has already seen this presentation about how going on offense and fighting to expand Social Security is not just fighting for the right policy and great politics, but strategically is fighting back against the billions of dollars that have been spent undermining confidence in Social Security. So in 2012, we were faced with yet another assault on Social Security benefits. And we decided that instead of just fighting back, we wanted to fight back in a way that we never had to have this argument again. So what we did is we looked at what our opponents did, and we tried to mirror it a little bit. We know that Pete Peterson and the Wall Street billionaires went to Madison Avenue and the center of advertising in America and created some really catchy messaging and ideas and then disseminated them across the country. So we went to Madison Avenue and we hired the Topos Partnership, who is a well-respected strategic communications firm and advertising firm. And then we partnered them with K&P Communications, who are a DC strategic communications firm. And we had a months-long project, the first part of which was to look into the landscape and where we are today. And we had basically three goals, but the most important one was an effective organizing idea, something that was sticky, that people could tell their friends about, and that we would create a message that carried itself forward. In figuring that out, we had to figure out what are our obstacles and where are people currently. The goal of all of this is to create greater support for our policy preferences of expanding Social Security and preventing, obviously, if we're laying the groundwork and fighting to expand Social Security, we're preventing cuts to Social Security. So an effective organizing idea is something that makes sense out of a jumble of otherwise nonsensical information. So something like if you look up into the night sky at the jumble of stars, it's just a huge miasma of lights until you can see the constellations. And once you have a constellation, an idea that you can understand, you can not only make sense of the night sky as a snapshot, but you can see it rotating with the seasons, and it makes sense of the information. So that's what we were really looking for when we started this research. But in fact, I think the most interesting thing we found was the problem. When we went into this, we knew what we were up against, but I think that this finding really helped us understand how the other side was doing what they were doing. So we all know we have polling going back to basically the inception of Social Security that shows that everybody loves Social Security. They love it. Independent, Republican, Democrat, self-identified Tea Partiers, they love Social Security. So the question is, why are we always having this fight to defend Social Security if everybody loves it? And what we found is obviously what our opponents found, that your love of the program is independent to your confidence in the program. So you can love Social Security, but not be confident that you're going to get it. This line from a moderate in Alabama is pretty, sums it up. The economy and government are in a bad place, and there's no guarantee that the money from Social Security will be there. So this explains why whenever the opponents of Social Security attack Social Security, they never do it front on, right? They even usually say something like, look, I love Social Security. You know, my family relies on Social Security, but it's just not a stable system, or it's just not going to be there for you. And what that does is it shows that you can actually not attack and get people to not like the program, because that won't work. but you can undermine confidence in the program. And you do that by the very simple strategy that most advertisers understand, which is repetition, which is why you see Fox News and Fox Business and Wall Street Journal and a whole host of articles that say things like Social Security going bankrupt, which is literally impossible because Social Security cannot go bankrupt because it has a dedicated revenue stream. But they keep saying it over and over and over and over again, so it sinks into people's brains. Common sense explanations, in air quotes, is an important one. A common sense or an intuitive lie will beat out a non-intuitive truth every time. So the opponents know this, which is why they throw things out there like, we have to raise the retirement age because everyone is living longer. Even though that's not true. Everyone is not living longer. Some people are living longer. Richer people are living longer. Poorer folks are not living longer. Men of color are actually, life expectancy has been going down in recent time. That's a much more nuanced truth. And so the intuitive lie of everybody's living longer oftentimes wins out because it's just easier. It seems to make sense. The other one up here, fewer workers per retiree. You know, you'll see Alan Simpson, for example, likes to trot this one out a lot and say, you know, back in my day there were 16 workers for every retiree, and in the future there's going to be only 2 for every one. And the truth of, you have to look at the dependency ratio, and the largest dependency ratio we faced as a nation was in the 70s. That is not an easy explanation to get across. So their non-intuitive, their intuitive lies will beat out our non-intuitive truths. And deficit going broke, again, scare tactics that they use, they fit into these common sense intuitive lies. Fighting against the intuitive lies with non-intuitive truths is something that our side and people fighting for Social Security get into often, and it never works because our opponents will just repeat these simple talking points, and you can't fight that with a long, in-depth explanation that requires the viewers or the people listening to you to basically do a math problem. So with all that in mind, it really makes sense why opponents of Social Security never talk about Social Security, right? They always talk about entitlements. And as you can see from this slide, you put a scary red line on it and you say, entitlements are bankrupting the nation. We can't afford these entitlements. But what happens if you actually just pull out just Social Security? What happens is you find that scary red line is much less scary because it's a flat line. It's a horizontal line. It is the picture of affordability. And there's no way you can fearmonger around a horizontal line that shows that Social Security really is just about a choice of what kind of nation we want to live in. And the choice is, do we want to live in a nation where people can retire with dignity after paying into a system through their working lives? And I think everyone here would agree that that is the type of nation that we want. But you might say it's a little unfair to pull out Medicare and Medicaid from this because somehow Medicare is somewhat related to Social Security. They serve a similar population. But in fact, it's too fair to even have this discussion, because if you actually look at this and you put Social Security, which is the horizontal line at the bottom, versus total health care costs in America, and then you put the scary red line on top of total health care costs, you'll see that the scary red line is in fact 100% total health care costs. It's not Medicare, it's not Medicaid, it's health care costs in general in America are in fact unaffordable for a variety of reasons. Mainly that pharmaceutical companies are ripping us off, the organized insurance companies are ripping us off, big hospital and their lobbies have created a system where they're making tons of money and they're trying to point at Social Security and Medicare as somehow unaffordable, when in fact the picture of affordability and efficiency. Just how bad is it? And this is a complicated but not super, or it's a busy graph but not super complicated. The top line on both of them is us, the US, and in this case we don't want to be number one, but we are far and away number one. And this is the average spending on health per capita, so per person, and as a percentage of GDP. And you'll see that in both cases we are astronomically above the next advanced economic country that's listed on this graph. In fact, economists like Dean Baker have showed that if the US were to get our health care spending down to just number 2, so not down to the bottom or anything of this grouping, but just from where we are to number 2, so if we could just get to where Norway is, there would be no, I'll repeat that, there would be zero long-term debt problem in the United States. It is entirely explainable by healthcare costs writ large. This is a little thing that I show all of my staff at Social Security works called "A Stick of Gum is Bankrupting the Economy." And you can see in the bottom there is a blue line as a percentage of GDP. That's the price of a stick of gum. It is obviously at 0. And I'm going to then show you the total healthcare costs of the United States here. And you can see that's the scary red line, although it's blue in this case. And then I'm going to do one more that is total healthcare costs plus a stick of gum, and you'll see that a stick of gum is bankrupting this economy, and we must cut the price of a stick of gum. In this case, obviously, that's what they're doing for Social Security. It's just as ludicrous to fold Social Security into this and somehow say we have to cut Social Security because healthcare costs are out of control. And the problem here is that this has real implications for this policy discussion. This is a report done by Media Matters for America, a media watchdog. In the first 6 months of 2013, the 3 largest broadcast and cable news networks had 300 segments on Social Security. More than 2/3 of those segments, 68% of those segments, framed the entire Social Security debate as a problem of long-term solvency, which could only be addressed by drastic cuts to benefits. So over 68% of the coverage of what people around this country are seeing and hearing about Social Security is that the only solution is for benefits to be cut. So the other side is doing a really good job. This is my artsy slide, and it's my favorite. It's Lacey's least favorite slide. But I put this one in here because it's important to recognize that it's not just the opponents of Social Security who are leading, who have gotten us to where we are in terms of people's understanding. It's also a larger cultural impact of advertising in general and the concerted drive to break down belief in institutions, to create the sense amongst Americans that you are on your own, that you can't trust anybody but yourself. That's a really good thing for advertisers to do, but it breaks down people's faith in things like Social Security, in things that clearly we can do only when we work together. So, we did all this research. We found out that our opponents were undermining confidence in Social Security because they couldn't get people not to love Social Security, so instead they made people worried that it was going to be there for them. And now we're getting to, so how do we fight back? Well, we decided winning the debate is points that most effectively increased confidence, because we don't have to worry about people loving Social Security. We don't have to convince them to do that because they already do. Our job is to increase confidence in Social Security. Points that are sticky so that they can be repeated, and change thinking in the direction of our policy preferences. What we found is that actually, I'm going to say the most interesting result from this confidence data point that we pulled out is that if you have an audience member who's watching two people debate about Social Security, and the one side is, a classic opponents of Social Security argument about it going bankrupt, and then the other side is a classic defender of Social Security basically saying, no, it's not going bankrupt, and then explaining the facts. If you ask the person, the audience, they might believe that the person who is defending Social Security won the debate. They might say, oh yeah, Alex made a really good point that Social Security is a self-funded system and therefore it literally cannot go bankrupt. But just having seen the debate itself lowered people's confidence in Social Security. So really think through what that means. The other side wins just when they get us to debate on their turf. When they get us to debate on their terms, no matter if we win that debate or not, we lose the battle because people's confidence go down. So what is the answer to this? The answer to this is to go on offense, to never argue on their terms, but to always have them argue on our terms. And we found that explaining Social Security as a critical system, a vital, essential, foundational, core institution, this most effectively increased confidence, but actually it was when paired with this number 2. And number 2 had the largest emotional impact. This is the one that you really see work, but if you do it in this order, you maximize people's increase in confidence. So a safe bet that Social Security relative to all other retirement scenarios is the one system that you can count on. The third point here is why now is the time to expand Social Security. And it's actually, the first two are the framing of it. And those are the ones that you really want to make sure that you get across. The third one, you can shift in different arguments in that third one as long as you have proceeded in the right order and gotten people prepared to hear your message. So we don't win by addressing or refuting their argument. That's defense. We win by reinvigorating the image of Social Security as the retirement system we can truly count on. That's going on offense. There's one little shift that you can do verbally that's very helpful. And you don't have to do it all the time, but every once in a while, instead of just calling it Social Security or the Social Security program or something like that, just call it our Social Security system. So just add the word our to make sure everyone understands that this is ours. We earned it, we paid into it, it's there for us when we need it. And system conveys the largeness, the fact that this is part and woven into the fabric of America. So our Social Security system. After that, which is just every once in a while, all you have to remember to defeat the billionaire attacks on Social Security is to tell the core story of Social Security. Just remember to tell what we built and why we built it. So all you have to remember is what we built and why we built it. What we built is a critical piece of the American infrastructure. Here's an example. Our Social Security system is a critical system that serves us all like the military or the highway system. It is the foundation of our retirement security. It is basic protection for our families if we become disabled or die. Each generation has done its part to maintain its foundations over 75 years, 78 years now. The idea here is that you want to really make sure that you're framing Social Security as a concrete object with a function. So physical imagery is what we really want to use. So the Social Security system or our Social Security system, it should not be dismantled or pulled apart brick by brick. It's a core institution. And this one is know your audience. But it's analogous to, say, the highway system, which means it is as broad and far-reaching as the highway system. But if you're talking in California, you probably don't want to use the highway system as your example. Or the military system is another one that you could use. But if you're talking in Berkeley, for example, you probably don't want to use military system. So the idea here is to make people understand that Social Security is as important to the nation as our court system, or water system, or highway system. And here's just this idea in one sentence as an example. And again, we're not saying that you just repeat these exact words. You have to put it into your own words and just remember what we built and why we built it. So what we built. Social Security is a huge system that serves almost everyone and took decades of planning and hard work to build. Dismantling it would be like getting rid of our highway system. After you've said what we've built, now's the time to really land the punch, because this is where all the emotion is. When I talk to rooms full of people, this is when you can see them really get what we're saying, is why we built it. Why we built it is because compared to the risky alternatives, Social Security is the one system that we can all count on. It's there for us. It's been there for us through boom time and bust, through war and peace. For 78 years, it has never missed a single payment. Compared to the risky alternatives like 401ks that we saw turned into 201ks, home equity that we watched Wall Street evaporate, through it all, Social Security was the rock that we can count on. That's why we built Social Security, because together we can create a system that serves all of us, that there's no way you can find this in the private retirement investment world. It's just not possible. Social Security is the one system we can count on. So again, pulling out some of the things I said, frame Social Security is the most reliable retirement system, more reliable than 401ks, Wall Street investment. It's the one system we can all count on. It hasn't missed a payment in 78 years. It's a foundational insurance. People can outlive savings, but not Social Security. So here is an example of all of that in one sentence. Or not one sentence, in one example of the messaging. If the middle class can't count on Social Security in their retirement years, what can it count on? Not home equity or 401ks and IRAs whose value has dropped, not disappearing pension plans. Social Security is the one retirement system that really works. So after we've told everybody what we built and why we built it, now we tell everybody why now is the time to expand Social Security. So what we built, why we built it, why now is the time to expand Social Security. Expanding Social Security will help address the nation's looming retirement income crisis, the current squeeze on working families, and rising wealth inequality. Expanding Social Security is the simple way to address the looming retirement income crisis, and we pay for it by making the extremely wealthy pay the same rate as the rest of us. So now is the time to expand Social Security because we're facing with rising wealth inequality. We're seeing staggering levels of unemployment, especially for today's young people, and the gains of productivity for the past 30 years have been accruing to the extremely wealthy. We're staring down trillions of dollars in retirement income crisis, meaning trillions of dollars in that people will not have, that they would need to have if they were to maintain their standards of living in retirement. And the way we address that is by expanding Social Security. So here's a messaging idea. Again, we're not saying that you should just say these exact words, but the concept is here. We need to expand Social Security for everyone, but especially for today's young people who face staggering levels of unemployment and student debt alongside a lack of good-paying jobs. Expanding Social Security also works to reverse rising income inequality by simply asking millionaires and billionaires to pay the same rate as the rest of us. So Trickery Revisited. Sometimes it's important to explain why Social Security is constantly under attack. Where do these attacks come from? We really want you to focus on what we built, why we built it, and why now is the time to expand. But sometimes it's important to be able to explain the other side's story. And the important thing we found here when we were talking to people is that it really is as simple as this, and when you explain it in these terms, people really get it. Why is Social Security under attack? Because Wall Street cannot stand that they can't get their greedy little fingers on the $2.8 trillion that's sitting in the trust fund that is our money that we put in there so that it was there for us when we need it. And Wall Street just can't stand that. So they know that if they can privatize it, they could make a ton of money, or if they could destroy it so that no one had any choice but to invest on Wall Street, then they would be able to steal our money like they're wont to do. So here's kind of summing that up. Don't be fooled by the people who want you to give up on Social Security. The idea that the program is in trouble comes from people who are trying to trick us for their own reasons. Wall Street brokers stand to make huge new trading fees if they get to handle more private retirement accounts. So they do that by undermining confidence in Social Security, getting politicians to destroy the program and sell it off brick by brick. This is kind of a last thought here. It just fell out of our research, but we find it to be very powerful. I think most of the folks watching this webinar know what Scrap the Cap is. Most of the audiences that we speak to know what Scrap the Cap is. It is very sticky, probably because it rhymes, but in fact, to the vast majority of Americans, it means nothing. It is just 3 words, and if you don't know the policy, you don't know what Scrap the Cap is, and importantly, a lot of Americans don't know that there is a cap, that people only pay into Social Security on their wages up to $117,000 right now, and above that, anyone making above that doesn't pay into Social Security on that. So we devised a message that actually tells that story at the same time that we're talking about this policy, and it's pretty simple, and you don't have to say it all the time because Scrap the Cap is really catchy. But every once in a while, especially if you're speaking to an audience, say, making millionaires and billionaires pay the same rate as the rest of us. And the important words there are pay the same rate. Because right then, if you don't get any more time to explain what you said, you leave the audience with the knowledge that millionaires and billionaires do not pay the same rate as the rest of us. And that the policy that we shorthand Scrap the Cap would make millionaires and billionaires pay the same rate as the rest of us. So every once in a while, when you're talking about policy preferences that include Scrap the Cap, note making millionaires and billionaires pay the same rate as the rest of us. So thank you very much, everyone who is watching this webinar. We look forward to working closely with you going forward to make sure that our message is getting out there and we're giving our champions in the House and Senate the backing they need to push forward the fight to expand Social Security. My name's Alex Lawson. I'm the Executive Director of Social Security Works. You can always email me at alawson@socialsecurityworks.org. And obviously all of this is on our website, all the information, polling, and anything you need, socialsecurityworks.org. But if you need something that's not on there, send me an email and I bet you we can pull it together for you. So again, thanks so much.